The earthquake that struck Myanmar on March 28, 2025, sent shockwaves far beyond its borders. The seismic activity was unprecedented, catching many by surprise and causing widespread concern across the region. Hundreds of miles away, in the bustling metropolis of Bangkok, Thailand, the earth moved. The city, known for its vibrant street life and cultural landmarks, was suddenly thrust into chaos. Buildings swayed and panic erupted. People who were going about their daily routines found themselves in the midst of a terrifying ordeal. No one expected the tremors to reach so far, but the force of the quake, later determined to be a magnitude 7.8, was undeniable. The sheer power of the earthquake was felt across a vast area, shaking the very foundations of the city. The impact was felt most dramatically in the city's central business district. This area, filled with towering skyscrapers and bustling with activity, became a focal point of the disaster. Amidst the high-rises and construction sites, a terrifying scene unfolded. Workers and residents alike were caught off guard as the ground beneath them shook violently. A construction crane towering over the city buckled under the strain of the tremors. The sight of the massive structure bending and twisting was both surreal and horrifying. The metal arm snapped, sending debris raining down on the busy streets below. The falling debris caused immediate chaos, with people scrambling to find safety. The deafening roar of the collapse echoed through the city, a chilling reminder of the earthquake's devastating power. The sound was so loud that it could be heard miles away, adding to the sense of panic. Witnesses described the chaos that ensued as people fled in terror. The streets, usually filled with the sounds of daily life, were now filled with screams and the sounds of destruction. "It was like something out of a movie," said one witness, still visibly shaken. "The ground was shaking and then there was this horrible noise. The ground was shaking and then there was this horrible noise." The witness's account captures the sheer terror and confusion that gripped the city. "I looked up and saw the crane falling," the witness continued. "People were screaming and running. People were screaming and running. The scene was one of utter chaos, with everyone trying to escape the danger. Emergency responders raced to the scene, but the damage was extensive. The first responders faced a daunting task as they navigated through the debris to reach those in need. The collapsed crane had crushed cars and buildings, trapping people beneath the rubble. Rescue workers worked tirelessly, digging through the wreckage to find survivors. The crane collapse in Bangkok served as a stark reminder of the indiscriminate nature of natural disasters. These events can strike anywhere, at any time, leaving devastation in their wake. It also highlighted the interconnectedness of our world, demonstrating how an event in one country can have ripple effects felt hundreds of miles away. The earthquake in Myanmar had far-reaching consequences, affecting lives and infrastructure in Bangkok. As rescue efforts continue in Bangkok, the focus has also shifted to the epicenter of the earthquake in neighboring Myanmar. The international community has rallied to provide aid and support to both countries as they recover from this devastating event. The image of the collapsed crane quickly spread across social media, capturing the attention of millions around the world. It became a symbol of the earthquake's far-reaching impact, a visual representation of the disaster's severity. The sight of the crane lying in ruins was a stark visualization of the immense power unleashed by the earthquake. This power transcended borders, leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. The crane collapse also served as a grim reminder of the vulnerability of urban environments to seismic activity, highlighting the need for better preparedness and stronger infrastructure. In the immediate aftermath of the collapse, emergency responders worked tirelessly to reach those trapped beneath the rubble. Their dedication and bravery were evident as they navigated the dangerous conditions. Sniffer dogs were brought in to search for survivors, their keen senses providing a glimmer of hope amidst the chaos. Heavy machinery was used to clear the debris, a painstaking process that required precision and care to avoid further harm. The rescue efforts were hampered by the chaotic conditions and the scale of the destruction. The sheer magnitude of the disaster made every step a challenge. "We are doing everything we can to save lives," said a spokesperson for the Bangkok Metropolitan Administration. Their words echoed the determination and urgency felt by all involved. But the situation is very challenging. The rescue teams face numerous obstacles, from unstable structures to limited resources. The damage is extensive, and we are still assessing the full extent of the impact. The true scale of the devastation was slowly becoming apparent. As the dust settled, the true cost of the crane collapse became tragically clear. The loss of life and the injuries sustained were a heavy burden for the community to bear. At least 12 people were confirmed dead, their lives cut short by the disaster. Dozens more were injured, some critically, as the city's hospitals struggled to cope with the influx of patients. The incident left many in Bangkok reeling, questioning the safety of their city and the preparedness of authorities for such disasters. The community's sense of security was deeply shaken, and the need for improved disaster response measures became a pressing concern. While Bangkok grappled with the aftermath of the crane collapse, the city was in a state of chaos. Rescue operations were underway, with emergency services working tirelessly to save lives and clear the debris. The scene was one of devastation, with buildings reduced to rubble and the air thick with dust and despair. However, the situation in Myanmar was far more dire, a catastrophe of a much larger scale. The epicenter of the earthquake was located near the town of Mandalay, in the country's mountainous north. This area, known for its rugged terrain and remote villages, was ill-prepared for such a disaster. This region, already grappling with poverty and underdevelopment, bore the brunt of the earthquake's fury. The lack of infrastructure and resources made the impact even more devastating. Reports from Mandalay painted a picture of utter devastation. The earthquake had struck with such force that it left nothing standing. Entire villages were flattened, reduced to rubble by the force of the tremors. Homes that had stood for generations were now nothing more than piles of debris. Landslides triggered by the earthquake had blocked roads and cut off access to remote communities. These landslides not only hampered rescue efforts, but also isolated survivors from much-needed aid. Communication lines were down, making it difficult to assess the full extent of the damage and the number of casualties. The lack of communication added to the chaos, leaving many in the dark about the fate of their loved ones. "It's like a war zone," said one aid worker who managed to reach Mandalay. "Everything is gone, the destruction is beyond comprehension. Houses, schools, hospitals, all reduced to rubble. The very infrastructure that supported daily life was obliterated in an instant. People are in shock, wandering through the ruins, searching for loved ones. The sense of loss and despair is palpable, as survivors try to come to terms with the magnitude of the disaster." The earthquake struck at a time when Myanmar was already facing significant challenges. The country was in a fragile state, struggling with multiple crises. The country has been embroiled in a civil war for decades, with ongoing conflict between the military junta and various ethnic armed groups. This conflict has left the nation deeply divided and weakened. This conflict has resulted in widespread human rights abuses, displacement, and a lack of access to basic services for millions of people. The earthquake has only exacerbated these issues, making an already dire situation even worse. The international community must now come together to provide the necessary aid and support to help Myanmar recover from this unprecedented disaster. The earthquake in Myanmar has exposed the fragility of a nation already grappling with internal strife. The military junta, which seized power in a coup in 2021, has imposed strict control over the media and internet access. This has made it challenging for journalists and aid organizations to gather information and provide accurate reporting on the situation on the ground. The lack of transparency and the restrictions on information flow have raised concerns about the government's ability to respond effectively to the disaster. There are fears that the true scale of the devastation is being downplayed, and that aid is not reaching those who need it most. "We are getting very limited information from the ground," said a spokesperson for the International Committee of the Red Cross. "The communication blackout is making it extremely difficult to coordinate relief efforts and assess the needs of the affected population." The situation in Myanmar highlights the critical role of a free and independent media in times of crisis. When information is suppressed, it becomes harder to hold authorities accountable, ensure aid is distributed fairly, and prevent further suffering.